On the show, in Wheelspin, we drive the recently launched Ford Figo Aspire. We have a look at the Nissan GT Academy, and starting this week, we have quicker cars presenting the Auto Guide. On the road, we explore Satara in the Fiat Aventura. If you go back in time, you will recall that Ford Motor Company of US was one of the first automotive companies to have come into India post the opening up of the Indian economy. And the launch vehicle was the Ford Escort, a car that received somewhat of a lukewarm response. Ford followed this up with the Ford Icon in 1998 and the Endeavour and the Fiesta later on. But all these cars didn't receive the kind of success Ford might have expected. The big ticket item really came in 2010 when they launched the compact hatchback, the Figo, and they followed it up with the EcoSport in 2013, and that seemed to be a big success. But now Ford seems to be on a roll because they are going to launch 3 new products in the Indian market this year, starting with this one, the Figo Aspire. The Figo Aspire is a car which will mark Ford's entry into the lucrative sub-4 meter sedan segment, a segment which, because of its tax benefits, helps manufacturers to price their vehicles better and offers consumers a full-blown compact sedan which oftentimes is no more expensive than an upmarket hatchback. I must say, at times I'm quite confused by the way manufacturers name their cars. To me, it doesn't seem very logical or even reasonable. Take the case here. Ford calls this the Figo Aspire, which is a little confusing because there isn't really anything common between this and the Figo, except for the fact that the first part of the name is common. The Figo is a small compact hatchback, this is a full-blown sedan, and this sits on a brand new platform. And everything in this car is actually quite new, and there is hardly any sharing with the Figo in terms of the way she looks and the way she will probably drive. So don't be confused. The Figo Aspire and the Figo are 2 separate cars. If you have a close look at this grille here, you will find that it's a bit familiar. Ford calls this the family look, and they say that most of the cars built on this platform will have the same family look. The only thing I have against the so-called family looks is the fact that after a while they all appear to look the same. And that's something which takes away the freshness from the car. So Ford has to do something to make the cars look a little bit different. It might have the unmistakable Ford family look, but the large grille does make it stand out, and the large headlamps add to it. And when viewed in side profile, the car does look proportionate and well balanced, in spite of the fact that the rear, as to be expected in cars of this size, does end a bit abruptly. I think it's the rear end of this Figo Aspire which is going to be a true game changer. And I don't say this because this is the prettiest backside I've seen on a car. In fact, this is the most unattractive part of the Figo Aspire here. After all, how pretty can the backside of a sub-4 meter car get? This must be one hell of a challenge for any designer. But what it does have is a boot. And we Indians love a boot, don't we? This is 359 liters of very usable space, which is sure to come in very handy on an everyday basis. But everything said and done, it is the boot which has given the car the much needed practicality factor. Ford will launch this Figo Aspire with 2 engine variants, a base 1.2 litre petrol engine and a much bigger 1.5 litre diesel engine. But also in the petrol engine, you get a 1.5 litre which would be mated to a 6-speed automatic gearbox. And for all of you who hate changing gears in our crowded city condition, that should be a boon, that should be the car to have. What I drive today is the 1.5 litre diesel, the trusted and the reliable TDCI engine which does duty on many Ford models in India. But for this car, the engine has been tweaked to make it a little more fuel efficient. In fact, what Ford has tried to do in this car is to find a nice balance between the power output as well as fuel efficiency. Consequently, what you get in this car is 100 PS of max power, 250 Newton meters of torque, which is pretty good for a car like this, And in terms of fuel efficiency, you get close to 26 kilometers to a liter according to ARI certification, which is just fantastic. Initially, when you fire the engine, you might find it a little noisy at idling, but the insulation has been very well taken care of in this car, and when you are cruising on the highway, there's hardly any NVH. In fact, everything in terms of the noise and the vibration is well under control, and what you get is a really nice drive. In fact, I find the engine quite punchy at the lower revs, and in terms of cruising on the highway, it's quite good. You get to 3-digit cruising speeds quite easily, and on the highway the car feels quite balanced and planted, and it's very reassuring in terms of the way she feels. In terms of ride and handling also, this car seems to be quite balanced. It's not so soft that you cannot throw her around corners fast, and at the same time it's not so hard that you get all the bumps filtering into the cabin. In fact, it's a typical Ford, good on the handling, good on the engine, and if you are to compare it with the competition, I think she drives quite well. In fact, better than what you will get in this segment. When you start spending time behind the wheel of this car, you realize that everything is quite ergonomic, everything is well within reach, and it's easy to operate the knobs and the controls, and the quality of the switchgear feels quite good too. The engine is mated to a 5-speed manual gearbox here, and in fact the gears slot in quite well. Overall, the impression you get after driving this Figo Aspire is that this is a car which you will enjoy driving. In fact, like most Fords, this is more of a driver's car, and it will prompt you to spend more time behind the wheel than in the rear seat. If so far you had been favorably disposed towards how the car looks from outside, then I think once you get inside the car, you will be impressed too. This reeks of a car really well made, although somewhat predictable in terms of the color schemes. It's beige and grey, which you see in many cars, but the quality of the material looks quite good, and the seats also come with nice fabric. In fact, in the top trim, you get all leather seats. And what pleases me here is the fact that this is all very practical. And why I say this is because it has got plenty of space inside. This little storage space here, the glove box here, where you can actually store a small laptop, plenty of space to keep your knickknacks, bottle holders, 12-volt socket, even the door pocket is big enough to hold a bottle of water, all very user-friendly, and this is something that you are sure to like when you use this car on an everyday basis. Steering on this trim that I drive is not leather-wrapped, but it is small and compact and a 3-spoke affair with multifunction buttons on it, which again will add to your practicality factor. The instrumentation here is small, it's not large dial, but it's quite visible, and what I really like is the key here. This key will help you program the car. In fact, you can limit the top speed of the car and even the volume of the stereo, something that will come in very handy if you have teenage kids or an errand driver.
Leather upholstery, a fully automatic air conditioning system is what the top end will come with. The Aspire will also offer features like My Ford Dock, which will help you store as well as pair your smartphone, along with MP3 option, as well as hook you up with the satellite navigation system. Features which will help you to stay connected while on the move.
Another area in which this Figo Aspire is really going to up the benchmark is in terms of safety. The top trim will come with 6 airbags, and the base trim will also have 2 airbags in addition to the anti-lock braking system, as well as the high-strength steel that they are using in body construction, something that really pleases me because safety is becoming increasingly important. In a small sub-4 meter car, the question on everybody's mind is there enough space? And I can tell you, yes, there is. There is plenty of knee room, enough headroom and enough shoulder room, provided of course that you are an average sized adult. But if you are going to carry 3 passengers in the back seat, I would strongly advise against it, because then in that case, it's going to be a tight squeeze. Instead, if you put this handrest down and you have only one more passenger here, life's going to be a lot more comfortable.
The Figo Aspire might pack in a lot of features and plenty of space, but all is not well when it comes down to the build quality of the exterior.
Overall, in terms of the build quality, the Aspire here is built more or less along the lines of what is available in the Indian market today. It really hasn't upped the game much as far as the build quality goes. If you open the door and shut it as well, what you don't hear is a solid third. Instead, you hear a tinny sound. But the major problem that I have is with the shut line, especially on the boot lid here. If you look at it from a distance, you might get the impression the boot is not fully closed, and I think Ford should have done better than this. The addition of the Figo to the compact sedan segment in India is not only going to up the benchmark, but it will also give you buyers a nice, viable choice, because this is a car which is packaged rather well. It looks good, it has plenty of space, and it also offers you a choice of engines, a 1.2-litre petrol, a 1.5-litre diesel, and of course a 1.5-litre petrol with an automatic transmission. So the package really will work well, provided of course Ford does manage to price it right.
And Ford has managed to price it quite competitively, with the price for the base petrol model starting at Rs 4.89 lakh, while the base diesel is priced at Rs 5.89 lakh, a whole lakh more than its petrol sibling. The automatic offering with the petrol engine is priced at Rs 7.99 lakh. Coming up next, we have a look at the Nissan GT Academy, and starting this week we have Quicker Cars presenting the Auto Guide.
Can you make a career in motorsports by playing video games? Well, Nissan and its partner PlayStation definitely seem to think so. In fact, the art and technology of simulation is so advanced that the best racing drivers in the world play video games to learn new racetracks and to hone their skills. Invert this premise and Nissan believes that the next racing driver is just waiting to be discovered.
When you think about it, playing video games is a whole lot cheaper than trying to hone your skills in a go-kart. Gaming isn't cheap, but it is still a fraction of the cost of buying a kart, traveling to a track, and paying for fuel and tires again and again. Plus, there's no limitation of what you can drive or where. Your skill at the console and your imagination are the only limiting factors, really. Nissan GT Academy find Lucas Ordonez is now a regular on the touring car circuit in Europe, and has also been part of Nissan's lineup at the 24 Hours of Le Mans, finishing on the podium twice in his class.
With us today is Karun Chandok. He's a driver who needs no introduction. He's been part of Formula One, the World Endurance Championship, he's raced at Le Mans, and he currently drives for Team Mahindra in the Formula E Championship. He's also the mentor to the GT Academy drivers in India.
Start point, you learn things like racing lines, you learn things like the concept of how you approach a corner and drive a corner, brake first, go down the gears, go through the corner. So I think the basic principle of driving around a racetrack come to them, whether you're playing on a console. I mean, I used to play on a keyboard back in the day before console games came out.
On a computer?
On a computer, yeah. I mean, I can't count the number of hours Naren and I used to compete on this game called Grand Prix 4. I think our record one day, we had a 9-hour marathon at my house in Madras. With GT Academy is just that, is the potential for someone who can go from their living room all the way to the top of the sport at Le Mans with really no cost investment from their side, which is pretty extraordinary considering, if you think of the amount of work and the amount of effort that went into racing sponsorship in our careers compared to what these guys have today.
Where to from here? Apart from the impetus that Nissan is giving these youngsters, a lot will depend on traditional values like hard work and determination. From gaming to the racetrack, this is a completely different approach to motorsport. It's cheaper and safer in the beginning at least. Nissan is committed to the GT Academy, and one day, who knows, there might actually be a driver from India who will have graduated to the highest echelons of the sport, be it Le Mans, Formula 1, DTM or the Blancpain Endurance Series.
Sunil from Delhi has sent in a question. Now he wants to sell his Tata Ariya 2011 model, wants to know the essential checklist which he needs to ensure before selling his car to fetch the best price. Sunil, you have lots of options. One of them is posting a free ad on Quicker Cars. You can check the MSP by filling the relevant details in the form. Once you've got price range, post free ad for the vehicle. You can check for your number privacy, which ensures that your number is not exploited. The best part about it is the fact that all buyers can chat with you on the Quicker app through your ad ID. Your ad will be verified and you will get the choice of option free or premium. Once your ad is verified, Quicker Cars will do a free inspection in detail, which allows you to ensure a smooth and hassle-free scientific negotiation while giving peace of mind to the buyer. Finally, your ad will be live with all the details in a hassle-free manner for sale.
Coming up next, on the road, we explore Satara in the Fiat Aventura.
If you watched the show last week, you'd know that I've been exploring the Satara district in southern Maharashtra in the fabulous Fiat Aventura. Now, last week I set off to discover the small towns of Kas, Sajangarh and Thosegar. And today I have several new places on my list that I'm eager to see because this region truly has so much to offer. Now, the Aventura has been an extremely reliable travel companion. It's a car that's fast, smooth and comfortable, and yet has high enough ground clearance that even unpaved terrain is a breeze. And that's a huge asset on a trip like this. But now let's get rolling.
Where the river Krishna meets its tributary, the Veena, stands the former capital of the Maratha Empire, Satara. It's a region with a lot of little towns and villages worth exploring. There's lots to do for a long weekend trip. Its historic past is still visible in the form of its monuments that are declared protected heritage sites now.
This Aventura is powered by a 1.3-litre diesel engine which pumps out 93 PS, and that's quite enough power for this car on the highway. I'm really enjoying being behind the wheel. It's also a very comfortable car. The seats are generously proportioned and the power steering feels great to hold. I thought my first stop today ought to be the Sangam Mahuli, the confluence of the rivers Krishna and Veena, a truly holy spot. And the water here looks cool and clear. The banks are dotted with temples. It's clearly a place that's considered extremely auspicious by all those who visit.
Walking along the riverbed and appreciating the lovely architecture that lines the banks, time seemed to stand still. the place certainly has an aura of peace and tranquility. Such a welcome change from the bustle of city life.
This is the famous Kashi Visheshwar temple built in honor of Lord Shiva. It's the biggest and most auspicious temple at the Sangam, and it houses a bell installed in the 17th century by a Maratha king. The temple itself is several hundred years older, and it's very, very beautiful. Cloudy day like today, and after all that sightseeing, I've certainly worked up an appetite, and there's nothing quite like a vada pav and some hot bhajiyas on a day like this, especially to hit the spot. There's something about this soft pav and the crispy vada and these yummy bhajiyas, and of course the green chilies, that just feels so right on a monsoon day, especially when paired with a cup of chai. So without further ado, grey on my drive here, but it looks like the skies have cleared up quite a bit, which is perfect because I can really appreciate the beautiful views of the city in the distance. The aerial views from the top of Ajinkya Tara Fort are amazing, and I'm feeling really lucky that the fog has all cleared up so I can really take them in.
The moss and foliage that the monsoon has brought really gives the fort a fairy tale feel.
I drove up Ajinkya Tara Hill to come check out the fort at the top, which is where Shivaji actually used to look over all of southern Maharashtra from, so it's historically of great significance to the region.
Now time to drive a bit more as I head toward Chalkewadi to see the windmill farms. Another feature that makes the Aventura great for a road trip is the fact that you can fit in quite a bit of luggage. The spare tire is on the exterior, so you have plenty of boot space. There's also the roof rail in case you want to bring along adventure gear like a bicycle or kayak. Plus, there's extra storage space under the seats as well.
I've come to the Chalkewadi windmill farm. And as you can see, there are lots of windmills dotting all the adjoining hills in the distance. Now, the sight of these huge turbines on the grassy landscape is an unexpectedly beautiful stop. And I'm really overwhelmed by the size of these windmills. The scale is just so massive and it's hard to translate in a photograph. So you're going to have to come here and see for yourself. What a memorable trip this has been. From the greenery to the monuments, there's been so much for me to see on this trip. And driving the Fiat Aventura has been pure pleasure. It's a car that's equally comfortable on mud roads as on the highways. It's sturdy, it's stylish, it's fast, it's smooth. What more could you ask for on a road trip? I've had just such fun driving this car. And now it's time for me to head back to Mumbai, so I better get back behind the wheel. But thanks so much for joining us, and I hope that you'll tune in again next week.